On December 10th, we got a ruling on the FTC's case against the Kroger-Albertsons merger. And in a very quick turn of events, Albertsons is now suing Kroger.
We are the Good Food CFO, and we bring news from around the food industry right here to our YouTube channel, as well as full episodes of our podcast. And be sure to subscribe down below and click on notifications so that you get updates every time we upload a video to this channel. Sarah, the FTC has said on their website that along with their state partners, they scored a major victory for the American people, successfully blocking Kroger's acquisition of Albertsons. They even said that this historic win protects millions of Americans across the country from higher prices for essential groceries, from milk to bread to eggs, ultimately allowing consumers to keep more of the money in their pockets. They also said that this was a victory for thousands of hardworking union employees, protecting their hard-earned paychecks by ensuring that Kroger and Albertsons continue to compete for workers through higher wages, better benefits, and improved working conditions.
That's right, Chelsea. On December 10th, a federal judge ruled to block the Kroger-Albertsons merger. And despite the fact that this was an appealable decision, and it didn't ultimately stop the merger forever, Albertsons quickly moved to sue Kroger. Another interesting thing that is happening in the world of the Kroger-Albertsons merger is that despite the FTC winning its case, and despite the lawsuit and then countersuit between Albertsons and Kroger, the Colorado case that was also happening, if you recall, there was a Washington trial and a Colorado trial. That Colorado trial is still continuing. And there, the Attorney General has said that it wants to ensure and prove to the court that the deal is dead. So we're still waiting on a ruling there.
So let's dive right in with the federal case, right? This judge, who, by the way, was a Biden-appointed judge to the federal bench in 2023, has blocked the $25 billion merger. Mm-hmm. What did she have to say about it all?
Yeah, so this is U.S. District Judge Adrienne Nelson. She agreed the merger was likely to remove direct competition between the two grocers, essentially making it unlawful. Now, she also goes on to say in her written, statement of the ruling that the FTC actually did not present enough evidence to prove their theory that competition would be eliminated, but added that they did present a, quote, compelling and logical case. And that despite the defendant's best intentions to follow through on their promises to lower prices and all the wonderful things they said they were going to do for consumers and their employees, the business realities on the ground after the merger may change from what the defendants are able to invest or what is in their best interest. So she's sort of reading between the lines here, saying Albertsons and Kroger are saying they're going to do wonderful things, but there's no way to hold them accountable to do those things. And based on the, compelling and, logical case brought by the FTC, she ruled in the FTC's favor.
That's amazing. So with that, are we, I guess, waiting for a internal tribunal trial at this point? Do we know what's next, or are we just waiting?
Well, this was, again, an appealable trial, right? So Kroger and Albertsons had an opportunity to appeal this decision. However, very quickly after this decision was read, Albertsons sued Kroger. So for all intents and purposes, it seems like this deal is not moving forward.
Yeah.
A spokesperson had initially said that the companies were disappointed in the ruling and considering their options. They believed that, they had clearly outlined during the proceedings how the proposed merger would expand competition rather than reduce it, how it would lower prices, increase wages, et cetera, et cetera. But then that statement quickly changed. And on December 11th, Kroger said it was terminating the merger agreement after Albertsons said it was doing the same and filed a lawsuit demanding $600 million in termination fees for the collapsed merger and, quote, billions in additional damages, as it accused Kroger of not doing enough to satisfy regulatory concerns and get the deal approved.
Okay, so I really want to dig into this because basically what you're saying is that Albertson said, Kroger, you didn't do enough.
Not only that, Chelsea, but Albertsons is saying that there was a willful breach of contract and a breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealings arising from Kroger's failure to exercise, quote, best efforts and to take any and all actions to secure regulatory approval of the company's agreed merger transaction, as was required of Kroger under the terms of the merger agreement. I think this is interesting for the American people to know the fallout from this. These two massive companies did not get their way. And as soon as that didn't happen, they are turning on each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Albertsons actually went after Kroger for a couple of different ways that they breached this agreement, right? Including by repeatedly refusing to divest assets necessary for antitrust approval, by ignoring regulators' feedback, and for rejecting stronger divestiture buyers and failing to cooperate with Albertsons.
I find this part fascinating where they say in their lawsuit that they've rejected stronger divestiture buyers. So if we go back to Judge Nelson's, ruling and her written statement, she does state that she felt CNS was not capable of successfully handling and operating the divested
stores
location. Yeah, exactly. So it's really fascinating to me that all the while the trial is going on, it's like CNS is capable, they've done it before, whatever the arguments were.
And then behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah. Really fascinating.
Yeah. It also makes me really wonder who else they approached or thought about.
I highly encourage you, if you're interested, to go and check out the Albertsons website and read their full statement. One of the other things I want to highlight from there is that they are taking this action to enforce and preserve Albertsons' rights and also to protect the interests of their shareholders, associates, and consumers. They believe strongly in the merits of their case, and they look forward to presenting it to the court to hold Kroger responsible for the harm it caused.
And I find this really interesting coming from Albertsons because of the story we did recently where they spent so much time talking about how if this merger didn't go through, Albertsons would no longer exist. It would fail. It would, right? And so this is really their chance to kind of own the merger per se, right? Like, don't look at us, look at Kroger.
Right.
It's very interesting.
So, okay, so if this failed and Albertsons doesn't have the money to keep going, it then makes sense why they're sort of looking at the data, looking at these two rulings and going, I don't think this is going to work. We've invested money and time into making this merger work. Now we can get a $600 million termination fee, right? That they believe that they're entitled to, along with hundreds of millions of dollars potentially for, in additional funds from this case that they're taking against Kroger.
So does Kroger have a response to all of this?
Yes. In their own statement in response to Kroger's lawsuit on Wednesday, Kroger called the claims, quote, baseless and without merit, and accused Albertsons of repeated intentional material breaches and interference throughout the merger process. Kroger said it plans to fight the lawsuit and laid out its strategy moving forward without the merger.
So we've had the FTC sue Kroger and Albertsons. We've had Kroger sue the FTC. We've had states attorney generals sue Kroger and Albertsons. And now we have Kroger and Albertsons suing each other.
And both companies stating that right now they're going to be focusing on pouring billions of dollars into moves that will benefit their shareholders. So, yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. And I am not surprised. I'm so grateful that the FTC won their case. And I think it is important for the American people to see how these organizations are behaving post Judge Nelson's ruling.
With this lawsuit between Kroger and Albertsons happening, how does that play into the lawsuit happening in Colorado that is still waiting judgment?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably thinking, like, if with the FTC's ruling and now Kroger and Albertsons suing one another, can't Colorado just like pack up and say, okay, this trial is over.
Yeah.
There's no sense in continuing. I thought the same thing, but then I remembered that in Colorado, they're not just suing about the competitiveness or, anti-competitiveness of this potential merger, but the state was also suing the grocers for an alleged illegal non-poach agreement. We talked about this in a prior episode where during a strike, a King Super strike in 2022, Kroger and Albertsons are being accused of having a non-poach agreement, meaning they would not attempt to hire workers from one another's stores, right? Because that would benefit the workers and not the stores themselves.
Yeah.
So Weiser, the attorneys general in Colorado, said, we want to make sure that we prevail and that we get a decision on all counts. Right? So that it ensures that they are permanently stopping the merger. And so this is really important, right? Because this non-poach agreement that they had, that could happen again in the future, right? Depending on how the lawsuits against one another turn out, I'm sure. But they need to protect their citizens, the employees of these organizations in the state of Colorado. And that's one of the primary reasons that this case is going to continue to an official ruling. And we're waiting on that.
Well, that sounds like a very good thing. And I guess we'll have to wait to see how that turns out.
Yeah, we'll be back with a new video to update everybody when the ruling in Colorado becomes official.
Yeah.